Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Washington Wrestle Talk. I am your host, Mike. I'm very happy to announce that starting with this week's episode, you can now catch me on iHeartRadio. It's a pretty big deal for me, so I'm really super excited about that. But we start the week off with some tragic news. With the passing of legendary announcer Mean Gene Okerlund, who passed away on the Wednesday of last week. I first grew up watching Mean Gene in the WWF back in the early 80s. You know, the rapport he had with Hulk Hogan, which was always started off with, well, you know something, Mean Gene, or let me tell you something, Mean Gene. Always set the tone for the interview. He had a great rapport with other announcers such as Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Now that all three of those men have passed, it's like a part of my childhood has gone away. Gene left the WWF for WCW in the early 90s, and he was with WCW up until right before they were bought out by Vince McMahon in 2001. A notable event that he had in WCW was the night that Hulk Hogan turned heel, aligned himself with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash to form the NWO. And if you haven't seen that, or you can always check it out on, YouTube or even WWE Network. Look for the 1996 Bash at the Beach. Also, we lost journeyman Alexis Smirnoff. Smirnoff was born Mike LaMarche from Quebec. Long-time journeyman. He did have a few stints in the AWA, in the WWF in the 80s. He did come to Portland at one point in the early 80s. Kind of lost track of him, but he was another one of those Canadians that would play the foreign Russian heel. And another good example of that is Ivan Koloff, who was also from Canada. Nikita Koloff, who was from Minnesota. Nikolai Volkov, who actually was Croatian Yugoslavian. But, those two men will be missed. They were part of my childhoods. They're part of history. May they rest in peace. Now for the big news of the week. This past Friday, New Japan Pro Wrestling had their annual Wrestle Kingdom show in the Tokyo Dome. And as expected, it was the final show for Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Cody, and Kenny Omega. Every single title that was up for grabs on this show changed hands. In other words, the IWGP Tag Team titles were won by the Los Ingobernables team of Evil and Sonata. Chris Jericho lost the IWGP Intercontinental title to Tetsuya Naito. Kenny Omega lost the IWGP Heavyweight title to Hiroshi Tanahashi, who is now in his 8th reign as the IWGP Heavyweight title, champion. He has had the most reigns, but there is a lot of conjecture about whether he's the greatest of all time now as far as the IWGP champions go, or is it Okada? Let me know in your thoughts. But with the announcement on January 1st, right at midnight, of the new All Elite Wrestling with the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, Cody, there's a lot of conjecture about where Kenny Omega is going to go. There's been talk of him staying in Japan. There's talk of him going as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble later this month. And there's also talk of him joining All Elite Wrestling. There's also been speculation of All Elite Wrestling signing AJ Styles once his contract is up with the WWE. But again, that's just all rumors. Nothing for sure. But the only for sure thing is, as of right now, the Young Bucks, Cody, Hangman Page, they are no longer with New Japan. They've fulfilled their dates. And All Elite Wrestling will be starting here very, very soon. This Monday night, tomorrow night, Monday Night Raw, Hulk Hogan returns for the first time in several years to pay tribute to his friend, the late Gene Okerlund. Also to appear is Ric Flair. Brock Lesnar is also slated to appear, but we don't know how that is going to happen, how that's going to pan out. Usually he shows up, unadvertised or whatever. But there's also going to be a match with Elias versus Baron Corbin. And the Royal Rumble coming up the 27th of this month. There's always a lot of surprise entries in this, and personally, I think they should get guys from NXT. I'm going to pause this real quick. So, actually, no, I'm just going to keep going. I thought I was going to have a lot more time to talk about things. I guess I could talk more about New Japan. Some of the announcements that they made during Wrestle Kingdom was that their annual G1 Climax tournament that they hold every year in the late summer will now begin in the United States. New Japan is going to be putting on shows in 3 U.S. cities this summer: Los Angeles, Dallas, and Charlotte. And the tournament will start in Los Angeles. Also, they announced that Wrestle Kingdom 14 next year will be a 2-day event, as opposed to a long 5, 6, 7 hour event, counting pre-show, and then another event the following night called New Year's Dash. Now, New Year's Dash historically has been where they debut new characters return from injury. It's kind of like the Raw after WrestleMania. In years past, the Suzuki-gun faction returned after a year away in Pro Wrestling Noah. But this year, the only notable return was a guy by the name of Yoshihashi, who is a member of the Chaos faction with guys like Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, Trent Beretta, who some remember from WWE, Chuck Taylor, Rocky Romero. But other than that, it was a pretty disappointing show. You go from a great show the night before in Wrestle Kingdom, and you go to this kind of mediocre, terrible show with New Year's Dash. So it might be a good thing that they've decided to go with the 2-day event and just completely scuttling the New Year's Dash event. So we shall see. Coming up on the 4th of November, Monday Night Raw will be here in Portland, and I will be attending that event. So it'll be a lot of fun. I will give my thoughts on that on an upcoming episode. But like I said, there was just the Wrestle Kingdom show this week. Nothing real big. I can't think of anything other than that to to really talk about. Next week, I will have a list of who all is confirmed for both the men's and women's Royal Rumbles. I will give my thoughts on the Royal Rumble match itself, and I will give my prediction for the 2 championship matches that they have scheduled, which right now is Braun Strowman versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title, and AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship. But those are the only title matches, non-Royal Rumble matches scheduled as of right now. That could change between now and, the day of the pay-per-view. And then we also have NXT TakeOver on the 26th. And there's also going to be an NXT TakeOver in Blackpool, NXT UK. Blackpool is coming on the 12th of this month. So, I know what I was going to tell you. I know what I was going to share with you guys was Defiant Wrestling. They've been streaming their stuff on YouTube again after a year absence, give or take. They were doing it on their own, website, originally whatculture.com. Big story from last week was that Big Walter, lost the Defiant Internet title to Martin Kirby. The reason for this is Walter has signed with WWE to be in their NXT UK division, so he should be starting. If I know the way things work, he should be debuting probably either at Blackpool, TakeOver Blackpool, or the following set of NXT, UK TV tapings. So be on the lookout for Walter. He's a big Austrian 300-pounder, but he can do some amazing things. I've seen what he can do, and he's just phenomenal. But guys, that's all I got this week. Like I said, check me out on iHeartRadio. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MikeWaugh31. That's Mike, MikeWA 31. Follow me on Twitter at Mr. JAY777. The Mr. and then the J and then the 4 7s. And I hope to hear from you guys and let me know what all you want to hear. Hopefully I'll get somebody to interview one of these days. Again, have a good week, you guys. I will see you again next Sunday for more Washington Wrestle Talk. Till then, take care.